Hey fans, this is Steve Wilson, the man behind Congo Congo. You're listening to the Tapped Out Wrestling Network.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. I'm your host, Louis Carlin, and of course we're part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network, and this is the Impact Wrestling edition of the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast, and it is 2017 year in review time. Made it through 2017, just a few days left. Just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's to everybody. 2017 is quite a year for Impact Wrestling. There were some ups and there were some downs. It was a rocky year for 2000. For Impact Wrestling in the year 2017. But hey, we're gonna run down it. We're gonna run down some of the things that happened this year. And first, let's start off with the champions, who started off 2017 as a champion and who's the current champion now. So we go to the Impact Wrestling champion, the world champion. Bobby Lashley began the year as the Impact world champion. Wound up losing it to Alberto El Patron at Slammiversary. Patron had to vacate the title. He was suspended due to that incident with Paige in the airport, which we'll get to later on. So he had to vacate the title, and Eli Drake wins the title in a 20-man gauntlet match, and Eli Drake is the current Impact Wrestling World Champion. There's also the X Division title. Trevor Lee began the year as champion. He wound up losing it to Low Ki in a 5-way match. Trevor Lee wasn't pinned in that match, but Low Ki became the X Division champion. Low Ki wound up losing the title to Sanjay Dutt in India, who wound up losing it to Trevor Lee, who regained the title and is the current X Division champion right now. We have the Grand Championship as well. Drew Galloway began the year 2017 as the Grand Champion. Wound up losing it to Moose, who wound up losing the title to EC3. So EC3 is the current Grand Champion. Not the biggest fan of the Grand Championship format, but we'll get into that as well. Tag team titles, the Hardy Boys, the Broken Hardys, began the year as the tag team champions, but they wound up leaving Impact, and they vacated the titles. So Santana and Ortiz won the titles in a fatal 4-way match to become the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. They held the belts for quite some time, and they wound up losing it actually to OVE, Dave and Jake Christ, who in OVE are the current Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And then we have the Knockouts title. Rosemary started the year as the Knockouts champion. She wound up losing it to Sienna. Sienna was the Global Force Wrestling Women's Champion. It was a unification match at Slammiversary. And Sienna wound up winning that match, so she became the Unified Champion, basically the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion. And she wound up losing it to Gail Kim at Bound for Glory in a 3-way dance that included Ali as well. So Gail Kim won the title at Bound for Glory. She wound up retiring and vacating it, and the current champion Laurel Van Ness won a tournament to become the current champ, as I just mentioned. So Laurel Van Ness is the current champion. So again, current champions right now: Eli Drake, Trevor Lee, X Division champion. Grand champion is EC3. The tag team champions OVE, and the Knockouts title holder is Laurel Van Ness. So I just want to go over that, just run down the title reigns and the title changes for the year. Eli Drake. Let's talk about Eli Drake for a little bit. Eli Drake, as I mentioned, is the current Impact Wrestling World Champion, or Impact Global Champion. Well deserving wrestler for the title. He deserves being the champion. Eli Drake continues to prove day in and day out just exactly how talented he is. The guy could wrestle. The guy could talk. He's a great talker. He's got it. He plays the part. He talks the part and he looks the part. So he's got all three. He's got all three things that you need to be a terrific professional wrestler. And he is one. He's fantastic. He's come a long way. I remember when he started in, at Impact Wrestling, he was in a faction with Drew Galloway and, I can't remember the other guy. The other guy is in New Japan right now. I think his name was Mika something. Micah. Might have just been Micah, but he's in, New Japan right now, but Eli Drake we're talking about anyway, so it's not really important about the other guy. So Eli Drake came in, he started in that faction, and he just worked his ass off, week after week after week, and he made it. He became they gave him the belt and they let him run with it, and I thought that was a very smart move, but on the flip side of that, he's come off as a very weak champion in my opinion. And he hasn't been a dominant champion like Bobby Lashley was a dominant champion. Eli Drake in 2017 really came across as in my opinion, a weak champion. For example, at the Turkey Trot, the Turkey Trot, the Turkey Bowl or whatever it is, the Turkey Soup match, that episode, the show ended with the Eli Drake, their world champion, getting hit in the face with a pie. And he's sit there with pie on his face. And in tag team matches, he's taking losses. Granted, they're to Alberto El Patron, but this is your champion. Your champion's taking a lot of losses, like in tag team matches, and he's winning, but he's cheating to win. So he's not really coming across as a dominant champion that I feel that he should be coming across as. It's my opinion. He's the champion. He's earned this spot. They gave him the belt. They're letting him run with the ball, but they're making him look like a really weak champion. And I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, he could really, I could see Eli Drake holding that title for a long time. Just gotta let him win cleanly. Let him defeat. Look at Smash Wrestling. Look at Smash Wrestling. You got Tyson Dukes as the champion there, and he's been champion for over a year, and he's winning his matches cleanly, and he's putting on some terrific matches over there at Smash Wrestling. That's with Eli Drake. That's what they should, mold this championship reign around, after, is the Tyson Dukes Smash Wrestling Championship reign. My opinion, just let him win cleanly. Put him up against the top contenders. Let him just not run right over them, but let him get the victories over the top contenders. Put him up against Lashley. Put him up against Patron, against Johnny Impact. Let him win cleanly. There's no interference. Just let him get the victories. I know he had a nice victory against Petey Williams, but we need more of that, in my opinion, for when booking Eli Drake, because he could run with that ball for a long time, in my opinion, and they just have to. They got to make him a more dominant champion. That's plain and simple. I don't want him to lose the title. I'm afraid he's going to lose the title soon to either Patron or Johnny Impact, which would be probably a mistake, in my opinion. I would like to see him hold that belt throughout 2018. But again, they're booking him as a weak champion. Of course, that's my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's fine. You're entitled to disagree with me. But just my opinion, he's coming across as a weak champion. And that's, I guess that's all I got to say about that. 2017 also, we saw Anthem become majority owner by purchasing an 85% majority stake in TNA. Dixie Carter, the former owner, retained 5%. So she's a minority owner right now. She stepped away from TNA and Impact Wrestling, which wasn't not the worst thing in the world. So that was fine by me. But Anthem took over, and they immediately brought in Jeff Jarrett. And at first that was a huge plus in my opinion. That was a huge plus. Really, really good wrestling move. Jeff Jarrett formerly was with Global Force Wrestling. He owned Global Force Wrestling. So Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett came in. I remember when Karen Jarrett returned, she got a huge pop and a huge ovation, which was really surprising in my opinion. But nonetheless, she got the big ovation and things were looking good. Things were looking good for Impact Wrestling. Jeff Jarrett, he immediately took care of the tag team, division. There was hardly any tag teams. I think it was just the Hardys at the time. And he brought in a ton of tag teams. Reno Scum, he brought in, Laredo Kid and Garza Jr. He brought in, LAX, Santana and Ortiz. He brought in, Falaba and Mario Baccara. So he brought in a number of tag teams and really got that tag team division going again. And, he's really doing a good job. And then, you had, Impact Wrestling and Global Force Wrestling decided to merge, with Jeff Jarrett there. And they decided to rename Impact Wrestling Global Force Wrestling. So Impact Wrestling became Global Force Wrestling. And, a lot of new talent was coming in. We had a lot of new talent coming in, to Impact Wrestling. I mean, with the new talent, and not only new talent coming in, but he also, he developed working agreements with a lot of other, international promotions like AAA, The Crash both in Mexico, Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan, he was working in India as well, in England as well to form working relationships. So Jeff Jarrett was doing an absolutely bang up job for Impact Wrestling, and a lot of new talent arriving. I'm going to talk about the new talent shortly, but Jeff Jarrett was just doing a fantastic job, and Impact Wrestling was really picking up. And he had the Super X Cup where he brought in some X Division type wrestlers such as Desmond Xavier, Taji Ishimori, Sammy Guerra. You had a few others that came in as well. What was the other guy's name? I can't remember. But you had a lot of talent coming in, and things were really getting exciting for Impact Wrestling. And like I said, Jeff Jarrett, he came out on one of the shows and he spoke to the crowd and talked about what he was trying to do, and great stuff. And I was really on the right track until, sadly, Jeff Jarrett apparently developed a substance abuse problem, and substance abuse problem. He was showing up to independent shows that he's booked on as he was drunk. There's a video of him in AAA where he was drunk. He's intoxicated. So Impact Wrestling, I guess they put up with as much as they could until they decided enough was enough, and Jeff Jarrett was now becoming a liability to the company and no longer an asset. So they decided to part ways with Jeff Jarrett, and they decided that the Global Force Wrestling merger actually hadn't gone through, so they decided not to merge with Global Force Wrestling, and they parted ways with Jeff Jarrett. And Jeff Jarrett, he started talking about, how they're out of money and they can't afford anybody. So he was kind of, he seemed like he was angry, something that somebody angry would say. But then he kind of, that rhetoric kind of, he quieted down, and he actually entered a substance abuse program that was sponsored by the WWE, and he was there for the last 2 months, and apparently he's home now. So my prayers are with Jeff Jarrett. I hope he overcomes his demons, and never say never. Could he be back in Impact Wrestling? Like I said, never say never. He could be back, and if Jeff Jarrett could defeat his demons and overcome his demons, basically, I would love to see him back in Global Force Wrestling, Impact Wrestling. It's no longer Global Force Wrestling, but he still owns Global Force Wrestling. So, I mean, worst case scenario, Jeff Jarrett could actually start up Global Force Wrestling again and see what he could do there. But can we see him back? I'm thinking, well, never say never. If it happens, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw him back at Impact Wrestling in some capacity. But yeah, it was a good, this year, a lot of, if you go on the internet and you go like on Twitter, anytime somebody would leave Impact Wrestling, the Impact Wrestling haters would just blow up and have a field day with it. This guy left, this guy left, and this guy left, and this guy, and everyone is like, oh, who's left at Impact Wrestling? I'm not going to talk about any of the talent that has left Impact Wrestling, because talent leaves promotions all the time. I'm going to run down the talent that actually arrived, that actually showed up at Impact Wrestling. Here's the new talent that arrived, and it's probably not all of it, but it's most of it that has arrived this year, 2017 for Impact Wrestling. We saw the arrival of Jake and Dave Crist to the OVE, Desmond Xavier, Matt Sydal, Sami Callihan from Pro Wrestling Noah. We saw Taji Ishimori from Smash Wrestling in Canada. We saw Tyson Dukes. I hope they sign him to a full-time contract. We'd love to see him back, but we saw him this year. Falaba, very talented big man from Monster Factory. Santana and Ortiz of LAX showed up this year. They debuted. Johnny Impact, formerly Johnny Nitro, formerly John Morrison. So he went through an abundance of names, but Johnny Impact showed up at Impact Wrestling. Taya Valkyrie, another phenomenally talented female wrestler. Alberto El Patron, of course. Chris Adonis, Garza Jr., Tejano Jr., El Hijo de Fantasma, Hakeem Zayn, Casey Spinelli, and most recently, who we will be seeing debuting in 2018, Tony Cage as well. So a lot of new talent has shown up at Impact Wrestling. And I know a lot of people have field days with people leaving. But fact of the matter is, as people are leaving Impact Wrestling, talent is arriving. And that's what they're doing, is they're bringing in new, fresh talent. Like Desmond Xavier, Falaba, Taya Valkyrie, Garza Jr., Tejano Jr., Hakeem Zayn, Tony Cage, Casey Spinelli. These are all young, fresh talents that have the potential to be major stars, in my opinion, and they're all in Impact Wrestling right now. So that's really a huge plus for Impact Wrestling, having all these new fresh stars. And they have veterans. Alberto El Patron, Chris Adonis, is in there. Tyson Dukes, 20-year veteran. Matt Sydal, who's been around for some time. They have, in addition to the fresh faces, like I said, Desmond Xavier, Falaba, Taya Valkyrie, you have the veterans that have shown up as well. So you have a good mix of talent in, Impact Wrestling. And I know a lot of people are out there saying, oh, Impact Wrestling is junk, Impact Wrestling is garbage. It's not. Trust me, it's fantastic. And the talent that has arrived, in addition to the talent that's already there, such as Eli Drake, EC3, Bobby Lashley, you got Conan, you have Ali, you have Sienna, you have Laura Van Ness, all the new talent mixed with the talent that's been already there, is you got yourself one hell of a freaking roster, for Impact Wrestling. So, don't talk to me about who has left Impact Wrestling in 2017. Let's talk about who has arrived, if you want to talk to me. And I just went over all the names that have arrived, in Impact Wrestling in 2017. So that's great stuff, man, for Impact Wrestling. My favorite match. I gotta think about my favorite match for 2017. If I had to pick one match as my favorite match at Impact Wrestling, it would have to be Alberto El Patron taking on Eli Drake at the May 4th on the May 4th edition of Impact Wrestling. Tremendous match between the two. both worked really hard. Great back and forth action. Very close to a 5-star match, in my opinion. So that would be my favorite match of the year for Impact Wrestling. And while I have a favorite match, I might as well let you know what my least favorite match was for Impact Wrestling this year. And it had to be when I thought about it for a bit, and again, I don't want to sound negative about Impact Wrestling, but every promotion has their best matches and their favorite matches. So my least favorite match, I would have to say, would be Grado against Abyss at Bound for Glory. That or the Turkey Suit match. One of the two was my least favorite match. Grado against Abyss, the feud was kind of dumb, in my opinion. The feud was, the feud, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, just coughing there for a bit. Sorry about that. But yeah, so if you think about the feud between Grado and Abyss, I don't know, the whole feud was based. Well, first of all, it started with Grado and Joseph Park. Grado was going to get deported because his visa ran out, and Joseph Park, brought him on board and got him a job at his agency or his law firm. Said he was going to represent him so he could stay in the country and blah blah blah. And it wound up that he was cheating Grado out of some money, and Grado wasn't happy about it, and he wanted to be free from Joseph Park, and Joseph Park said, "Oh no, I'm not. You can't be free, but if you want this visa, if you want the visa back, and you want to be able to stay in the country, let's have a match." And if you beat me, then you could stay in the country. It's something along those lines. It was really kind of silly. And Grado accepted, and Joseph Park said, "You'll be taking on Abyss in a Monsters Ball match at Bound for Glory." And so there's just a bad match, in my opinion. It was from start to finish. Abyss has really lost about 8 steps since he's debuted 15 or so years ago, and it just wasn't a good match, and I didn't like the match at all, and it turned out to be my least favorite match for 2017. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So that's my favorite match and my least favorite match. If I could, and my favorite wrestler for 2017 will probably be my favorite Impact Wrestling star in 2017. I would have to probably say, if I think about it, probably Eli Drake. Eli Drake the guy could talk, like I said in the beginning, the guy could talk, the guy could wrestle, he's got it all. Eli Drake, I would like to say Trevor Lee, but we're going to talk about Trevor Lee shortly, so, but no, if I had to pick one, I would say Eli Drake is my favorite. I don't know if I have a least favorite. If I had to pick a least favorite wrestler, least favorite wrestler in Impact. No, you know what? I'm not even going to go there. There's so much talent there, in my opinion. I guess I already started, so I would probably say my least favorite wrestler would be Grado. I would have to say Grado. I'm not a big Grado fan, so to all the Grado fans out there, I apologize, but he's just wasn't a fan of Grado this year. That's all. So favorite wrestler Eli Drake, least favorite wrestler Grado. So there you have it. Let's talk about the tag team division for a little bit. The tag team division, like I was mentioning with Jeff Jarrett, when Jeff Jarrett came back, the tag team division when he came back, the tag team division was really basically a 1 or 2 team division. Just the Hardy Boys, and I don't know who else was there. May have been I think it's just the one. I know they brought in a few other tag teams, but there wasn't the tag team division wasn't thriving. And I mentioned earlier, when Jeff Jarrett came back, he really noticed that, and he brought in a lot of tag teams. And the tag team division was really starting to get strong. But I noticed once Jeff Jarrett left, the tag team division started to fizzle out again. And basically we got two teams left. We got LAX and OVE. And those are the only two tag teams that are left right now in Impact Wrestling. If Impact Wrestling, if they want to move forward, they got to get more tag teams. They need a tag team division. I mean, so they got to bring in more tag teams. There's a lot of talent out there. I mean, when they were in Canada, and we're going to talk about that soon, in Ottawa, they brought in TDL, great Canadian tag team. I hope I got those initials correctly. So TDL they brought in, which was a really good tag team. There are a lot of other good tag teams that are available out there that they could bring in, like Idris Abraham and Joe Coleman. They could bring in. There's Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, who are another great tag team for Smash Wrestling. I'm just looking to see if it's actually TDL. I probably don't have that correct. But they did bring in a team from Quebec. And I apologize that if I got their name wrong. TDT. I'm sorry, not TDL. TDT. The tag team they brought in TDT. They had a little confrontation with OVE. We saw them once, but they're a decent tag team. There's also the Well-Oiled Machines that are in Smash Wrestling that they could bring in as well. But I'm sure there were an abundance of other tag teams out there that they could bring in. You have to have like 5 or 6 good tag teams to get this tag team division going again, because it was fizzling out, got strong, and then it fizzled out again. So I think it's very important that they bring in a number of tag teams in 2018 for the tag team division. Because they could really get it thriving again. And they were getting it thriving. Like I said, Jeff Jarrett did a tremendous job with it. But definitely like to see more tag teams at Impact Wrestling. You had Falaba and Mario Baccara, but it looks like they're giving Falaba the singles push, which I've been saying they should have done for quite some time. But maybe they can find another partner for Baccara. Hakeem Zayn is coming in, maybe him and Tony Page. They're both out of Global Forged. Maybe they can form a tag team, but they need more tag teams basically. Okay, and then also this year we had Gail Kim. Gail Kim has retired from professional wrestling. Now she came back mid-year, and she announced mid-year that she was going to retire at the end of 2017. And Impact Wrestling had a golden opportunity here. To push and promote and advertise and generate interest in Gail Kim's push to become champion before she retires. But they didn't do that. They didn't do it. They dropped the ball, in my opinion. The focus on Gail Kim should have been from the start that she wanted to get that title before she retired, and she spent 6 months, trying to get that title shot, meeting failures along the way, and then finally, in the end, getting that title shot and winning the title at Slammiversary, at Bound for Glory, which she did. She wound up winning the title at Bound for Glory, but it was a 3-way dance. So it was Gail Kim against Sienna against Ali for Sienna's Impact Knockouts, the Knockouts Championship. It shouldn't have been a 3-way match, in my opinion. It should have just been Gail Kim getting that shot against Sienna, one-on-one match. She wins the title in her home country of Canada. That's how it should have been. It shouldn't have been a 3-way dance with Ali involved. Again, they really dropped the ball here. They didn't really generate any interest at all in Gail Kim's push to become champion before she retires. But nonetheless, she did win the title at Bound for Glory. And she retired as champion soon thereafter. And Allie was in the ring with her when she retired, and I guess they hugged, and she put the title was vacated, and as we know, Laurel Van Ness won the tournament to become the new Knockouts champion. But again, they really had when she came back, and she said that she's retiring at the end of the year. God, they had a golden opportunity there, and they didn't run with it, and they made a major mistake, in my opinion. A major mistake. They could have had, Gail Kim's push to the title. Anyway, it frustrated me, man, because I knew when she came back and she said that she's retiring at the end of the year, I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. This is going to be good until she retires. She's going to be pushing for that title. Like I said, probably hit some failures along the way, but eventually she'll get that title shot and she'll win the title. And I was like, Impact Wrestling, they have a tremendous opportunity here, and unfortunately, like I said a few moments ago, they blew it. In my opinion, they really blew it. But hey, that's life. You move on. Nobody's perfect. But then from there, I want to talk about a wrestler that I know. I communicate with this guy. He was actually on the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast interview. I interviewed him prior to him leaving Impact Wrestling. Marshe Rockett. I want to talk about Marshe Rockett for a little bit. They signed Marshe Rockett. Dixie Carter signed Marshe Rockett in early 2016, and they mishandled the crap out of Marshe Rockett. They had themselves a good young professional wrestler who was very talented, a fresh face, and they had a chance to push this guy. They had a chance to promote this guy. They had a chance to make this guy a champion, which is what he could have been. But they decided for some reason or another not to use him. And when he was in Impact Wrestling, I would tweet all the time that they're not using Marshe Rockett properly. I would say that Marshe Rockett needs to be on TV, that they need to push Marshe Rockett. He was in a few matches on TV, and they were really good matches. He's very talented wrestler, but they just didn't use him properly. And I'm sure when I interviewed him, he was considering leaving. And I asked him that question. I said, when is enough going to be for, what does Marshe Rockett say, they're not using me and enough is enough? And Marshe Rockett, he kind of said, sooner or later, I guess, you never know when it's going to be time, for Marshe Rockett to move on. It wasn't those exact words, but that's what he was alluding to. And, lo and behold, a few days later, he announced that he was leaving Impact Wrestling. And it's a damn shame, because they really could have done something with Marshe Rockett. I mean, look what they're doing with Caleb Conley now. He's on all the time with Trevor Lee, and he's showing just how talented he is. They're giving Fallah Bahh a singles push finally. They should have been doing this with Marshe Rockett all along. Because what's going to happen now is Marshe Rockett is going to end up probably in NXT or Ring of Honor, and he's going to thrive there. But it's 2017. They lost a potentially terrific wrestler in Marshe Rockett. He could have been one of their top guys. He could have been one of their top guys for sure. They really dropped the ball, and I just want to talk about that in 2017. They really dropped the ball with Marshe Rockett. And will he be back? Will he be back in Impact Wrestling? We'd love to see him back. Never say never. I wouldn't be surprised if they want him to come back, that he would go back. I don't think he left on bad terms. It's just that they weren't using him. And why? It's like if you're working at a job and they say, "Oh, we got nothing for you to do. You need to sit. You need to sit at desk number 3 and just wait for 8 hours." You're not going to want to do that. You're not going to want to do that day in and day out. You're going to look for another job. You're going to look for other work. So that's basically what happened with Marshe Rockett. He just decided to leave, and he's getting booked everywhere. And might see him back in Impact Wrestling, but we might also see him in Ring of Honor or NXT. And like I said, he'll thrive if he's given the ball. He can run with it without a doubt. Okay, there was we'll talk about another. It was a feud. They ran a feud. It was with Impact Wrestling and AAA. Now this feud should have been terrific. But sadly it wasn't. They just didn't, I guess, play the cards right. What started out, AAA coming in, El Tejano Jr., El Hijo de Fantasma, and Pagano, from AAA came in, saying that AAA is superior and blah blah blah. Impact Wrestling, they have the Impact Wrestling stars. You had EC3, Eddie Edwards, and you had James Storm fighting for the honor of Impact Wrestling. And this should have been a terrific feud. We could have had cross promotion matches. It could have been all of Impact against all of AAA. It could have really been good, but for some reason it didn't work. And I don't know. They just. I guess they just didn't play it right. I just want to point that out also, because they had another tremendous opportunity there, and should have been a terrific feud. It could have been the feud of 2017. It could have been like, it could have been. Well, I don't want to compare it to WCW versus NWO, but they could have done something big there, and but they didn't, and the feud came and the feud went, and I don't think too many people really cared about it, to be honest. Yeah, they had another opportunity there, and they didn't do a good job there, and and I don't want to keep knocking everything. James Storm, he left Impact Wrestling after 15 years of being in Impact Wrestling. Now, of course, all the Impact Wrestling haters instantly came out and said, Impact Wrestling can't afford to pay him, that's why he had to leave. And, all the dirt sheets were saying, Impact Wrestling can't afford that big contract, so James Storm had to leave. And then, it's kind of irritated me to hear that stuff again. And then, of course, James Storm was on an interview not too long ago. He's being interviewed. I forget which website was interviewing him, or which radio show. But he said he left Impact Wrestling because he was with them for 15 years. He did all he could with Impact Wrestling. It was just time to move on. It was time to move on. That's the reason. It was just time for him to move on. And that's all. It's a shame to see James Storm leave Impact Wrestling. He's an Impact Wrestling original, when he's with America Most Wanted with Chris Harris. But sad to see him go. But if you're working for a company for 15 years, and you've done all you can with that company, and you want to, expand your horizons and move on to somewhere else, you're gonna do it. And that's exactly what happened here. Yeah, he had a cup of coffee in NXT, and he could have signed with him. He could have signed with NXT 2 years ago, but he decided to come back to Impact Wrestling. And you think about it, he could have signed with NXT 2 years ago, but he came back to Impact Wrestling because he was loyal. So don't start all the crap that, he had to leave because of money and he was unhappy there. He wasn't unhappy there. He wasn't unhappy there. If he was unhappy there, he would not have come back 2 years ago. He would have signed with NXT, and not Impact Wrestling, but the reverse happened. He came back to Impact Wrestling, didn't sign with NXT, so he wasn't unhappy there. You could take that, you could shove it, where. He left, out of his own words, from his own mouth, he left Impact Wrestling because he did all he can there for 15 years. Nothing left for him to do. It's time to move on. Plain and simple. Now, of course, like I said, it's sad to see James Storm go. He's a tremendous, tremendous talent. Loved him in Impact Wrestling. But wherever he goes, he's going to be a success. So I just want to say thank you, James Storm, for 15 years of service at Impact Wrestling. Definitely one of my Impact Wrestling favorites. Wherever you go, my man, like I said, you'll be a huge success wherever you go. Jim Cornette actually came back this year. Jim Cornette returned, and it was after Bruce Prichard actually came in with Jeff Jarrett. Bruce Prichard came in, and he was an authority figure with Karen Jarrett, and you had Dutch Mantel was also another authority figure. So they had a few authority figures there, and I think there was too many authority figures. You had Bruce, like I said, Bruce Prichard, Karen Jarrett, and Mantel. And you never really knew who was in charge, so it got a little confusing. But once Jim Cornette came in, and sadly he was only on Impact Wrestling for one set of tapings. But once he came in, he was just there were a fire return to Impact Wrestling that I you haven't seen for a while. Absolutely love Jim Cornette. Love to see him. He's just tremendous talent. And I absolutely, like I said, I loved him in Impact Wrestling. I only wish that it was for more than one TV taping. I wish he would come back to Impact Wrestling full time. Was a great addition for a few weeks. A great addition to Impact Wrestling for a few weeks. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. With Bruce Prichard and Karen Jarrett, it was, like I said, it was getting confusing, and they were arguing, they were fighting with each other. But when Cornette came in, he took control, and he's got that unique voice, that you instantly know it's Jim Cornette, and love the talent, so talented. The shame he couldn't stay longer. Just a shame. I know he had border issues and he wasn't able to go up to Canada when they went up to Canada. But great talent, and I hope he comes back. I hope we see him again. It was a tremendous move bringing in Cornette, but it was just a damn shame that it was just for a few weeks and not a few months or even a few years. Love Cornette, love seeing him again. And I know talking to Myron at the Tap Down Wrestling Podcast Network, Cornette coming back actually kind of got him back into Impact Wrestling. So that's the effect that Jim Cornette has. Cornette shows up, people want to watch. And like I said, I really hope he comes back. I really want Jim Cornette to come back to Impact Wrestling. Great talent there. I'm not a fan of authority figures, but if you're going to bring back an authority figure in the form of Jim Cornette, I'm all for it. Man. So hopefully they'll bring back that talent. Alberto El Patron and Paige had an incident. I'm going to talk about this briefly. Incident in the airport where some abuse was involved, and apparently, but it wasn't Patron was found innocent. It was Paige who was found guilty. So Alberto El Patron was innocent, but nonetheless he was still suspended indefinitely by Impact Wrestling, which was a little confusing because he wasn't at fault. He was found innocent. He was cleared of all charges, and Paige was actually the one that was charged. So it was a little confusing as to why he was suspended, but he was suspended nonetheless. And I think that when you think about it, if he wasn't suspended, Eli Drake might not have become champion. So maybe they suspended him anyway because they knew he was coming back, and it was gonna be part of an angle, which basically it kind of was when he came back at Bound for Glory. So it was they kind of played the angle that why he was suspended, and but I'm glad that I'm not glad that they suspended him, but I'm glad that Eli Drake seized that opportunity, that he was given that opportunity to run with the ball when Patron was suspended. So bottom line, Patron was innocent and Paige was guilty. So there you go. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. So that's major happening in 2017 for Impact Wrestling. Another, did I miss anything on this side here? Another major thing, major event is they went to India. Impact Wrestling went to India in 2017 to film some TV tapings. And man, oh man, those TV tapings were tremendous. The fans were absolutely outstanding. They were so into the matches. And, yes, the rumors out there again saying, that they were paid to be there. They're paid audience members. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. They're not the first promotion to pay people to come watch their product, and they won't be the last. But the fans were tremendous. It was great stuff, great show. Would love to see them back in India. I would love to see them go to, other countries, to film, Impact Wrestling TV tapings. But it was a huge step forward for Impact Wrestling, to film. They were the first professional wrestling program, if I'm not mistaken, to do a TV taping in India. I'm not sure if the WWE has done one yet. But I believe Impact Wrestling, I think they said they were the first promotion to do, TV tapings, in India. So it was great time. Of course, Sanjay Dutt, in front of his, country people, he wins the X Division title over Low Key. So that was big. Mahabali Shera, who was sadly no longer with Impact Wrestling, he got a major push there as well while in India. So it was great wrestling there. There were great shows. They put on some great shows. And then from India, they went back to the Impact Zone in Orlando. But then they did some TV tapings up in Canada and in Ottawa. Some really good TV tapings up there where we saw a lot of Canadian talent showing up. Canada has a lot of talent. We saw Tyson Dukes, Marcus Burke, who I don't think really get to showcase his talent. He was in a 6-man tag team match. We saw him briefly. But Marcus Burke was up there. We saw Chip Chambers from Atlantic Canada. He showed up as a security guard. We saw TDT showing up. So we saw some Canadian talent. So it's positive move for Impact Wrestling, and it's a great opportunity for Canadian talent, and there's an abundance of Canadian talent in Canada. We saw Brent Banks as well. Brent Banks against Eli Drake, actually, on Explosion, which was a terrific match. Brent Banks being of Smash Wrestling. So it was a great opportunity for Canadian wrestlers. And speaking of Canada, the Impact Wrestling, Anthem has decided to move Impact Wrestling, their main offices, from Nashville up to Toronto. So their main offices are now in Toronto. Moving forward, we're going to see a lot more Impact Wrestling in Canada. The first set of TV tapings for 2018, of course, it was announced they're going to be back in Orlando. But then the next set of tapings after that in March are going to be back up in Canada. Hopefully they're in Toronto, and I would love to attend. So good things happening. It's good that they're getting away from Orlando, because in the Dixie Carter era, they were situated in Orlando, and that's where they did all their shows. Just in Orlando, and it was getting stale. The fans were showing up. They didn't care. They weren't real wrestling fans. They need to get in front of real wrestling fans, and that's why, going to India, filming in Ottawa, huge step forward, huge plus, for Impact Wrestling. They even attempted to do a few house shows this year also, out in New York, and really not too many people showed up from what I understand, but it's okay. It's the first 3 shows, live shows in a long time. It's actually, they only did 3 shows. They didn't, I think they were going to do 4, but they canceled 1. Probably could have been due to poor ticket sales. I'm not sure. But they dipped their foot in the house show pool, but they kind of pulled it out right away. It's probably a little, might have been a little too cold at the time for them. So they pulled their foot out of that pool, and I'm sure in 2018 we'll see some more house shows. I'm hoping. would love to attend an Impact Wrestling house show if they come up to the Toronto area. And I know they're talking about, you know, the tapings. They haven't announced where it's going to be, but I think they had mentioned that we could expect a lot more shows up here in Canada. So they'll be out and about in Canada, probably out in Alberta. They'll probably be out in Vancouver. We'll see them here in Toronto, probably out in Montreal and Quebec. So really, really, you know, good times ahead for Impact Wrestling, and wrestling fans in Canada, and professional wrestlers in Canada as well. So it's a good mix there, So very, very positive. Really looking forward to that. What else we got here? What else we were talking? Oh, of course. Don Callis and Scott D'Amore. They are now executive vice presidents at Impact Wrestling with Ed Nordholm. So yeah, Don Callis, Scott D'Amore, two really good wrestling minds. Don Callis most recently involved with New Japan Pro Wrestling, as an announcer. Scott D'Amore has been with Impact Wrestling on and off for a number of years. But now executive vice presidents, and I think it was a terrific move, by Anthem to bringing these two guys on. Really looking forward to the first set of tapings in 2018, which will be under the first set of tapings under the Callis and D'Amore regime. So I'm really looking forward to that. And a huge plus with Scott D'Amore is he owns Border City Wrestling, and Impact Wrestling needs a developmental, in my opinion. I would love to see Border City Wrestling become the developmental for Impact Wrestling. And I know Scott D'Amore was headed was the head of Global Forged. They had the Global Forged tournament, which was Scott D'Amore was running, and that's where they got Hakeem Zayn and Tony Page. They brought them aboard, and Hakeem Zayn, incredibly talented. Tony Page, you know, very talented as well. So I would like to see more of that. I would like to see more Global Forged competitions. Love to hear an announcement in 2018 that Border City Wrestling is the new developmental for Impact Wrestling. Something that they really, really need and really could use. So again, 2018, really looking forward to that, the first Impact Wrestling TV tapings, with Don Callis and Scott D'Amore calling the shots. I'm expecting to see a lot more fresh faces in 2018. 2018 should be, a terrific year. A terrific year for Impact Wrestling. So let's talk about 2018 for a bit, then we're going to wrap this up. 2018, like I said, I'm expecting a lot of things. They're looking at bringing in a number of wrestlers. I know Brian Cage is one. Brian Cage is one wrestler that they're looking at to bring in. I know for 2018 they're trying to form some sort of working agreement with the New Japan Pro Wrestling, which would be tremendous. Right now, of course, Ring of Honor has that working agreement with New Japan. Not sure if they'll be able to swing that. I know they kind of got it in with Don Callis, because he's and he is or was an announcer at New Japan. So they kind of got a little bit of it in there with Don Callis. So we'll see what happens. If Impact Wrestling, they want to work with Ring of Honor and New Japan, hey, that's a huge plus there. But we'd love to see Brian Cage. Love to see Brian Cage, as I said, in Impact Wrestling. I'm sure they're going to be bringing in more tag teams. I'm sure they're going to address the tag team division in 2018. Just nothing but positivity ahead. I'm just thinking nothing but positive vibes for Impact Wrestling in 2018. I'm expecting a lot, and I'm sure they're going to deliver. So anyone out there who's been saying that Impact Wrestling, they should just fold, they should go away, they're not going anywhere. And 2018 is going to be a huge year for Impact Wrestling, and you can mark my words. You can take it to the bank. 2018 will be a huge year for Impact Wrestling. So much talent there. Talent might leave, but talent is coming. Trust me, they're going to bring in some really good talent with some really fresh faces, and I could just thinking of thinking of words to say here, but there's really nothing to say, but there's really nothing to say except Impact Wrestling is going to be great in 2018. It was great in 2017. It wasn't perfect. No promotions are perfect. But in 2018, Impact Wrestling is going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's going to be great. You got to watch it. Give it a chance. Trust me, Callis, D'Amore, they know what they're doing. They're going to bring a great product to Impact Wrestling. It's already great in my opinion, but they're going to make it, I think they're going to make it even better. So 2018, I'm sure we're going to see some more pay-per-views. I know we had 2 last year, Bound for Glory and Slammiversary. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more live shows. But 2018, really looking forward to it, for Impact Wrestling, and I'm really looking forward to a full year, at the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast, Impact Wrestling Edition, for Tapped Out Wrestling, Podcast Network. So, there you go. My year in review, 2017 for Impact Wrestling. So until then, until the new year, to 2018, again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Don't drink and drive, please. If you're drinking on New Year's, please, designated driver, take public transportation. I know in most cities, public transportation will be free on New Year's Eve. Call a cab, take public transportation, have a designated driver. Please don't drink and drive on New Year's. Get home safe, stay safe, be safe, and I will be seeing you in 2018 here on the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast for the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. I am Louis Carlin, and until next time, thank you very much, and please stay safe, and one more time, don't drink and drive on New Year's Eve. Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.